You know, human ambition, it's just this incredible force, isn't it? It's what builds pyramids, what sends us to the moon, what connects the entire globe. But what happens when that ambition goes too far? When the dreams are just so enormous that they collapse under their own weight? Well, today, we're diving deep into the world of these monumental megaprojects that promise to literally change everything, but instead became some of the most expensive and fascinating ruins on Earth.
And this quote, I mean, it just nails it. We're not talking about ancient ruins here, worn down by centuries of time. No, these are, like it says, concrete tombstones. They're these stark, modern reminders of dreams that went bust, of fortunes wasted, and of planning that went catastrophically wrong. They really are monuments to what could have been.
So, before we get to the spectacular collapses, we've got to understand what drove these projects in the first place. That powerful, intoxicating allure of ambition. That moment when a massive idea is first sketched out in dreams of concrete and steel. And look, don't get me wrong, the price tag for this kind of ambition, it's just staggering. Just look at this number. Financial analysts estimate that the global cost of stalled projects tops $1 trillion. And that's not a one-time cost. That is every single year. That is the mind-boggling scale of wasted money we are talking about. Okay, with that crazy number rattling around in our heads, let's jump into the rise part of our story, the grand designs themselves. These weren't just about building a new bridge or a tall building. A lot of the time, these were visions of a whole new world, born from these incredible moments of optimism. Let's kick things off with what has to be one of the most audacious, almost sci-fi engineering ideas ever. Back in 1928, a German architect named Hermann Sergel unveiled his master plan for Atlantropa. And his goal? Oh, nothing much, just to completely re-engineer the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, just look at the scale of this thing. It's totally bonkers. The idea was to build a massive dam at the Strait of Gibraltar. This would lower the Mediterranean Sea by 200 meters. Why? To create massive new swaths of land for cities and farms, generate huge amounts of clean energy, and, get this, literally merge Europe and Africa into a single unified continent. It was a vision of utopia on a scale that is just hard to wrap your head around. All right, so from literally reshaping the planet, let's now take to the skies. Back in the 1960s, there was a new space race, but this one was for supersonic travel. And America's big entry, the one designed to just crush the competition, was the Boeing 2707. And this right here, this really shows you the mindset. The goal was never to just match the European Concorde. No, the plan was to completely eclipse it. The Boeing 2707 was designed to be faster, flying at Mach 3, and carry almost 3 times as many passengers. This wasn't just about building a plane, it was a statement of absolute technological dominance. But hey, don't think for a second that this kind of grand ambition is just something from the history books. Let's look at a much more recent example, Forest City in Malaysia. This was a project sold to the world as a $100 billion futuristic eco-utopia. I mean, the promises they were making, they were just off the charts. A brand new city for 700,000 people, built entirely from scratch on artificial islands. It was supposed to have all this advanced green technology, luxury everything. It was sold as the literal future of how we live, the perfect city for a new age. So you've got these incredible dreams, right? Reshaping continents, conquering the skies, building perfect cities. But this is where the story takes a sharp turn. This is the part where we see the cracks start to appear and where we run headfirst into what's known as the iron law of failure. And this gets us to a really weird but crucial idea, something researchers call the megaproject paradox. Basically, even though we have mountains of evidence showing that these massive projects almost always go way over budget and fail to deliver, for some reason, we just keep planning more of them, and we keep making them even bigger. So why do we keep doing it? Well, that paradox leads us right into what some people call the iron law of megaprojects, and it's exactly what you see here. The pattern is so predictable it's almost a guarantee. They cost more than expected, they take longer than promised, and they deliver less than we hoped. Over and over and over again. It's the one constant in this world of grand ambition. So what causes this perfect storm of failure? Well, it's usually a nasty mix of things. A sudden recession can pull the funding overnight. A new government comes in and cancels the last guy's pet project. Sometimes the science or the environmental calculations are just plain wrong. And a lot of the time, it comes down to this blind faith, this build it and they will come mentality that just completely ignores reality. Okay, now it's time to see what this iron law actually looks like on the ground. Let's take a tour of the concrete ghosts left behind when towering ambition finally crashes into cold, hard reality. First up, the World Islands in Dubai. The dream was pure, unadulterated luxury, a $14 billion archipelago shaped like a map of the world, where the super-rich could literally buy their own country. The reality? After the 2008 financial crisis hit, it became 300 sand islands, mostly empty, just sinking back into the Persian Gulf. Next, the infamous Ryugyong Hotel in North Korea. The dream here was a 105-story pyramid that was meant to be this staggering display of national power and engineering might. But for decades, the reality has been its nickname, the Hotel of Doom, a massive, hollow concrete shell that just looms over the city, and it has never, ever had a single guest. Then you have this project in Texas, where the dream was pure, mind-blowing science. The superconducting super collider was going to be a 54-mile-long particle accelerator that would unlock the fundamental secrets of the universe. The reality, after Congress killed its funding? 14 miles of abandoned, flooded tunnels, a $2 billion hole in the ground. And finally, let's talk about Montreal Mirabel Airport in Canada. The dream was to build one of the largest airports on the planet. The problem was, it was built so ridiculously far from the city that nobody wanted to use it. Passengers never came. It became a ghost airport. And you gotta remember, 10,000 people were forced out of their homes to make way for it. So after touring all that wreckage, you just have to ask, what's the lesson here? What can we possibly learn from all this? Which brings us to our last section. Is the future just doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past?
Yeah, this isn't just a history lesson. I mean, right now, as we speak, one of the most ambitious megaprojects ever conceived is being built in Saudi Arabia. It's called NEOM's The Line, a 170-kilometer-long mirrored city in the middle of the desert. And you can bet it's facing a lot of these same familiar massive risks.
So how do you even begin to avoid creating the next generation of modern ruins? Well, one tool planners have now is called Quantitative Schedule Risk Analysis, or QSRA. I know, it sounds super complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Instead of just picking one optimistic completion date, QSRA is like a stress test. It uses computers to simulate thousands of things that could go wrong to give you a much more realistic forecast.
And this table? Wow, this shows you exactly why that matters. Look at that top line. The simple, optimistic plan, the one you announce at a press conference, says it'll be done in late 2027. But when you actually run the numbers, there's only an 8% chance of hitting that date. If you want a 50-50 shot, you're really looking at 2029. And to be 80% confident, you're talking about 2031. That is the massive gap between a political promise and a statistical reality.
And that brings us full circle, right back to the beginning. Looking at these incredible, magnificent failures, what's the final takeaway? Are these ruins just monuments to human arrogance? Or are they something more? Maybe they're just the unavoidable price we have to pay for daring to imagine and to actually try to build a totally different future. It's a question worth chewing.